Greetings, everyone, and new moon blessings. We are recording this at the time of this powerful new moon, and I'm so grateful to be back in conversation with my friend Pam Gregory, who is not only an extraordinary astrologer, but an incredible spiritual guide to all of us in these times, and an incredible friend. So, thank you for being back in conversation today.
Yeah, I'm going to love this, Heather. And Heather, as many of you know, is a shaman, a healer, an astrologer, a teacher, and also a wonderful spiritual guide. And she is an extraordinary, loving, caring, generous, big-hearted, amazing friend and human being. So really delighted to be back with you and discussing something a little bit different for us, I think, Heather, it's fair to say.
Yes, this is a stretch for both of us since we're both private people. But I think that this is a powerful conversation to be in that we both have given an overview of the astrological energies of 2024. We both see this year as a very powerful year of accelerated change and metamorphosis, transmutation. So we thought we would take some time to talk about how we personally and how each of us can navigate the intensity of these times. How do we work with these energies in a way that we can stay as much as possible in that energy of love and higher consciousness? So let's talk some about that and how we navigate that and how we can support others in finding that way of staying centered in the midst of this intensity.
Yes, and I think that's a very big need right now. And I'm sure, Heather, you are getting a lot of emails, and certainly I am, with people really wanting this kind of a conversation. And I will very much let Heather speak for herself from her own personal viewpoint in this. But from my point of view, everything I say in this conversation with Heather today has a context of 20 years ago, I was extremely unhappy in an extremely unhappy marriage. I was very fearful. I was very sick, and I'd been sick for a very long time. And so, everything from my point of view, I'm going to be talking about today are simple tools, simple ways that I have radically changed my life to get myself out of that situation, out of that unhappiness, change my health, change my life in every respect. So, I hope that not only are these tools simple, but they're also very practical and accessible for people. So I very much want that to be the context.
Ah, beautiful, powerful. And for me also, I was thinking a lot about just how intense and challenging it is to be in this time where there's so much uncertainty, there's so much chaos and turbulence on the planet. And it can activate a lot of anxiety. And I know I can feel that in myself. And it's very reminiscent for me of the challenging time about 30 years ago when I had that very powerful mystical experience saying, you need to transform your life or you're going to die. And I just had to step into radically undoing my life and stepping into the mystery and both carrying this deep awareness that this was exactly in alignment with my soul's path, but at the same time, many nights just being in complete anxiety and panic like, what am I doing? Deconstructing everything that's been secure and given me some sense of foundation in my life, dismantling it all and moving into the unknown. So I think we're both sharing from our past experiences, but also our attunement to the energies of this time. But say some more, Pam, about your own journey with that transformation.
Yes, similar to you, Heather, I was so ill. I knew if I stayed, I was going to die because I'd been so ill for so long. And and thank goodness for both of us, we had the courage to do that. But equally, like you, I was stepping away from everything that represented security, an income, a career, savings, a whole life structure that I was leaving behind, and where was I going? But I think this is going to be, although for both of us this was in the past, I think it is incredibly relevant to this year, because I think many people will be making these radical shifts. Because again, if we look at the astrology, we're moving away from old forms of security to trust the invisible, to
Yes.
trust the invisible. Tarot, fool in the tarot, stepping off the cliff edge. But the more that we can connect with other people, my sense for you, Heather, is that there was a sense of you doing that on your own. And for me, it was absolutely, I was completely alone at that point for various reasons I won't go into. But now we can connect with other people, even if it's online, but even better in person, because this is after COVID, there's this yearning for connection, to come together with other human beings. If you have that kind of support, you can all be holding hands as we radically step into the invisible and create. And we have got a blank canvas going forwards. It's going to be so different.
Mm.
We are going to be creating from a blank canvas. What kind of a loving universe do we want to create? Peace, joy, compassion, laughter, freedom, big one. We are able, we have the power to create. And I think in our lives, we've been so programmed, dare I say, to not have that sense of power. But through 2024, if we have that courage, as you did and I did, we will get a growing sense of our own ability to manifest.
Well, and I think with the lunar nodes in Libra and North Node in Aries, it's supporting each of us in how do we step forward and make those choices that are in alignment with our true selves. And to me, a key in all of this is, and this is part of my daily journey, is in my meditation time. And I feel like having some daily practice, and I know you do also, of both taking time to meditate, to step out of the cacophony and energy that we're bombarded by every day, to be in that place of stillness. And for me, being in connection with nature is absolutely critical in order to come back to center, come back into balance. But part of my daily practice is really trying to attune to and connect more and more with my witness self,
Yeah.
and then see the patterns and see the moments where I get reactive or I get caught up in anxiety or despair, and hold that with compassion,
Yeah.
but more and more align with my soul self. And I think part of what I feel is a huge theme in this time of transmutation is we are moving more and more into homo luminous ones,
Yeah.
into more and more alignment with our soul selves, remembering who we are, why we're here, that we are infinite beings. We all have chosen to be here in this profound time. And yet we have these human selves that feel all that's going on. The earth is a planet that's about emotions. So we feel it all. But for me, a daily practice is how to align with my soul self that's unafraid, that is in deep connection with cosmic consciousness, to hold my personality self that can go through the roller coaster ride of emotions. And particularly in the intensity of this time, that personality part of myself and that ego part of myself that likes a sense of certainty and control can feel like everything is dissolving. So I think that's part of what I daily try to do, to allow those feelings to come up, but not identify with them, not get mired in them, and keep coming back to that alignment with the soul self.
Yeah, a beautiful Heather. I mean, you said so much there, so richly. And yes, I mean, as certainly I've recommended to many people, and I'm sure you have, turn the television off. I actually gave away my television 4 years ago, and I've now got a large plant where the television used to be. So much.
Perfect.
So turn that off, because anything that lowers your frequency, that rattles you, just exclude it, because it isn't going to help you. And if it lowers your frequency, that's the frequency you're broadcasting out to the world. We can't stop broadcasting a frequency of some kind, and you want it to be higher, not lower. So got rid of the television. People send me stuff all the time, and I'm sure they do to you too, Heather, that if I'm starting to watch and I think, oh, I'm not going to go there, that's going to take my I will just stop it, whatever the information is. And what you said about being the witness self is so true, because 20 years ago I didn't have the spiritual awareness or any toolkit really to know how to handle that situation. I think being the observer, being the witness, is so important, to observe our thoughts. Because today, as an example, how certainly I can still mess up. I have a daily practice like Heather, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I was furious about something this morning, and this is an extremely rare thing for a double Pisces to be furious. I was furious about potentially some local happening to do with the trees. I care passionately about the trees, so I just ignited. We've got Eris stationary today. Just ignited.
And Pluto conjunct the sun and moon.
Absolutely. And, a whole series of events then happened. A workman came. I'd been expecting. He was incredibly aggressive and intimidating. And I'm sure he'd probably been inside for GBH. And he was very threatening. And I couldn't wait to get him out of the house. And because I was so distracted with him, I burnt a load of food in the cooker. It just went bum, 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 bum. But luckily, I had the wit to say, this is coming from me. And unless I nip this in the bud, it's going to keep on rolling through my day. So I had the witness and, just about enough observer witness self to say, stop it. Everything in our reality comes from us. Now just stop it before there's any more mayhem in your day. And therefore I could bring myself. So being the witness, observing where we are. And I've often said, put Post-it notes all over the house. What's your frequency? What are you thinking about? And the more we can do that, the more we become master of our thoughts and our emotions, and master of our reality. And that's going to be so important with Pluto and Aquarius going forward, because that's one of the wonderful promises, positive promises of Pluto and Aquarius. We become much more aware of our electromagnetic frequency and how we are in charge of it. But just like Heather, I have when I wake up in the morning, before I open my eyes, and I've sometimes mentioned this, I have a kind of rolling mantra of, I live in love and peace and bliss. I live in love and peace and bliss. And I milk it. Is it really cozy in bed? I'm grateful for the silence, but I'm also grateful for the bird song. And I kind of milk that to get me into a very good tone for the day. That actually went slightly AWOL this morning, but at least there's an attempt to set the tone for the day, and generally that works really well. But through the day, as well as I'm walking in the woods, I will have a series of rolling mantras, particularly if I sense I'm starting to go on a negative, I don't want to go there. I will flick into, wow, look at this blue sky. Wow, look at the light. There's a sense of spring today. It's not raining. That's a miracle. Thank you for the miracle of no rain today. And I'll have things like I live in a world of magic and miracles. Miracles happen to me. And I will flick into one of those very positive, I won't waste a second. I'll flick into one of those. Or the blossom good child. I am the light. I am the love. I am the truth I am. And I'll just get into one of those rolling, very positive mantras, and at least it stops the flow of any negative thinking that could just run and run and run.
Oh, it's beautiful, Pam. And part of, I think, what you're talking about that is so powerful, when we can get into that attitude of gratitude, it automatically raises our consciousness. And one of the things that I'm aware of is when I move into gratitude and focus on what is beautiful and what is going well and what is delightful around me. I'm in the present moment.
Yeah.
When I'm in that anxiety or angst, I'm either reworking something from the past or I'm anxious about the future, but I'm not in the present moment. And I think with how much accelerated change we're going to be experiencing, we have to really work to stay in the present moment because there's so much uncertainty about the future that we need to allow ourselves to be in the experience in the moment of the support that is there for us.
And that's the only place you have your power, because if you're anxious about the past, you're worried about the future, you're just scattering your power. So the present is the only place you actually have your power, and that's the place of stillness that you referred to, Heather. The place of, it's almost 0 point, isn't it? That's the most powerful place to create from. And we each have our own individual way to do that. But I think it's a really good idea for people to get into that practice right now before we really press the go button on 2024. And whether it's just closing your eyes and watching your breath, listening to sacred music, bare feet on the grass, staring at blue sky, whatever it, breath work, whatever it is, have a default method that can just decompress your energy, drop you into the present moment, and you can just warmth, you can feel like butter melting in the sun to bring you back to the present. And I think that's so important, that kind of simple practice.
Well, and I think what you're saying is it is so critical to have that as a daily discipline and a daily practice, because then when things intensify, we have that foundation already in place. And it does then support that witness self that can see that we're beginning to get reactive or get stirred up, and then go to those practices to come back into center, come back into stillness. If I can say this, Pam, one of the other things that I think is a real gift for you in terms of a witness self, you have a great sense of humor. And that sense of humor is a way of stepping out of the tumult and seeing the larger picture and seeing the humor in it, which also is, I think, very supportive of the witness self.
I think it's my number one survival skill. I honestly do. Oh, not another day like Tuesday. I think it's my absolutely gold star survival skill, my sense of humor that's helped me to get me through, because I think there's always somehow a funny side to the awfulness that you're stuck in. And to see that just shifts your frequency as well, to laugh. I mean, how often do we laugh as adults? We laugh as children, but to laugh apparently just explodes your aura with all the endorphins and things. So that raises your frequency instantly. And I think to find joy, I said this in an update I was filming yesterday, commit to finding joy. Yes, it is going to be a rock and roll year. It's going to be an amazing year in many ways, but commit to thrive, commit to find joy. Because if you start with that lens and that context, you're much more likely to find joy than if you're just kind of trying to bat off the various challenges that are coming your way.
And joy is such a powerful way of moving into that higher consciousness and the capacity. I do think this year is a time of amazing creativity and amazing innovation and increasing connection with each other in community and our own capacity to co-create together. So as we can open to joy, we open to those new possibilities and how we can be co-creators with the cosmos and with each other. And I think another piece that is important for both of us is that daily practice of connecting with nature.
Yeah.
To me, I start the day with that walk in nature and my own meditation time, because that sets the tone for the day for me. And being in nature, the earth herself, as you've talked about in your recent videos, is in our own ascension process. And as we connect with the earth and the plants and the animals, they're supporting us in trusting in this larger unfolding that's happening. And when I feel that connection, then I feel more grounded and centered And then that sets the tone for my day, and I can move into the day as a walking meditation. I really try to hold my life as working in this dream, in this walking meditation. And then it helps me not to take too seriously the events or the specific experiences that unfold across the day.
Yeah, I'm really with you on that, Heather. I mean, my walk in nature, and I will go out every day in biblical rain, hammering hail, gale wind. That is still non-negotiable. I think it's done wonders for my immune system, actually, but it's non-negotiable because you're still in nature in all of its seasons and moods. And I try and really observe things like the light. The light is changing. The light is kind of diamond sparkly frequency, even in grim weather. And you just think, wow, the earth is really shifting, and the animals and the trees and the plants are way ahead of us. I think we're tail end Charlies in this evolution. And I feel, yes, like you, very grounded, but also very inspired by nature, and chatting to the wild ponies and donkeys, and that is so grounding, and it's very makes you feel very connected to the much bigger picture of what's happening. It's very reassuring to have that connection to nature, I think.
And I think it is a way of feeling connected and supported in those moments where we don't have a supportive community around us.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about how alone you felt in your transition time, and I did too. I mean, my friends, so many people around me thought that this change that I was involved in was crazy. They could not understand what I was doing. So I felt very isolated, very alone. And part of what was so profound for me in that time, when I was dismantling my practice, selling my home, leaving everything to go into the unknown, is uh, and I think connecting with nature and the way in which, when we honor the consciousness of nature, it's in relationship with us, it's there for us. And through those weeks when I was in that transition, when I would feel most overwhelmed, I would walk out in my garden, and this hummingbird would come and hover right in front of me. And that became almost uh, it was a very frequent experience where this particular hummingbird would come to me. And I didn't realize till much later that some of the spiritual meaning of the hummingbird is follow the path of destiny with joy.
Oh, wow.
But I felt that, spirit and nature were saying, you're on the right path, stay the course. We're supporting you, we're there for you. And I think we can find that solace in connecting to nature. And for me, one of the things that's important in this time, when I'm out walking in the woods, is connecting with the sun and honoring the sun, the consciousness of the sun, and the way in which it's beaming these intense solar energies to us, particularly during this time of the solar maximum of this solar cycle. Those energies are transforming us.
Yeah.
And as we are in relationship with the sun, then we can feel that connection and feel that support.
Absolutely. And also, don't forget to ask your angels, ask your guides, show me the way. And if the signs and signals aren't clear enough, you know, make it louder, make it clearer.
Give me a
Somebody
sign.
somebody once told me that they had a vision of their angels filing their nails, waiting for instructions. So they are, they are there for us. So make it louder, make it clearer. So they are our support team in order to give you those white feathers on the path, those breadcrumbs, so you can feel, okay, I'm held, I'm supported. I have a whole spiritual team behind me to help me on my way. And also the human connection, I think, being so important too. And I think another big thing as well, Heather, because I think we've been again so programmed to think there is only one reality. It's the reality you see on the nightly news. That is one coming down the track like a train. There is no escape. That is one reality. And that's just not true. That's just not true. There are so many realities that we can tap into, and we are hopping timelines all the time. And I think we can sense that ourselves in major choice points in our lives, whether we're leaving a job or leaving an important relationship or leaving a home. You have a choice. There's free will that comes in, particularly at those crossroads, and think, okay, do I go for A or do I go for B? And even in little ways through your day, the choices come up. Do I go for A or do I go for B? And so they take us on different trajectories. So be aware that there are multiple realities. And yes, there's one reality that isn't looking so good right now. We're creating as humanity a very different one. And all of these amazing spiritual gifts that are coming in for us are because we as humanity have been able to raise our consciousness enough to create that higher timeline with the help of benevolent galactics, undoubtedly. But nevertheless, we are co-creating all the time, something that what didn't even exist before. It wasn't there. We've created it. So we are creating in the invisible. It's like hitching your star to a wagon and saying we are powerful enough through our meditation, through our visualization, through our dreaming in to make this happen for humanity, a much better world.
You know, that's so beautifully said, Pam, that there are multiple realities and multiple dimensions.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of what can feel disorienting sometimes in this transition time, because I do believe that, you know, what we get bombarded by in the news and in the media is the third dimensional consensual reality. And it is so intentionally fear-based.
Yeah.
And we're really in this time moving through fourth dimensional reality, which is that time of awakening and having more consciousness of the path that we're on and our capacity to be co-creators. To move into that fifth dimensional way of being that is so much about higher consciousness, joy, love. But it can feel like a roller coaster sometimes because we feel our own movement back and forth through the dimensions. And I think the key is to hold with compassion when we slide back into third dimensional reality and get caught in fear or overwhelm, but realize we are on this trajectory and we can keep, as you said, choosing to step into that different dimensional way of being and then feel the different energies that we're in and the different reality that we can co-create together. And I think, and you highlight this a lot also, a key in doing that is to keep coming back to the heart and not get caught in the mind. Because when we're really in connection with our hearts, that supports us in being more in alignment with the soul self. And then those choices that we are making are from that deeper part of ourselves and that higher consciousness. Our minds can see the choices and get caught in all the different possibilities and trying to analyze it and perseverate about it and figure it out and try to feel in control of it. And I think it's when we drop into our hearts that we can tune into that inner knowing and really make choices from that deeper, authentic part of ourselves and our soul selves.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Heather, and that's so important because, you know, firstly, I often talk about living from the inside out, not the outside in, because that's when we get buffeted. If we're taking information that's knocking our frequency about, you know, another really big scary thing, another really big. Well, how do you even know that's true? Maybe it's just an idea that certain people want us to latch onto. Maybe it doesn't even exist yet, but we're being very obedient in helping to create that. Well, stop it. Don't do that. Create something, you know, create something else. So I think simplicity, living from the inside out, and simplicity versus complexity is a big part of that. And just last night, actually, this came to me because I think, I mean, there was a big M class flare, last night, and I can get, as many people can, very buzzed up with these solar flares. They are ingredients for evolution, but nevertheless, they can be speedy. And I noticed that I was really speedy in my mind with, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, how you're ever going to do that. And you've got a huge to-do list, and that didn't work very well. Blah, blah, blah. And then your breath becomes quite shallow and fast. And so the way to control your mind and get your energy out of your mind and into your body is to drop your breath into your heart and imagine you're breathing in out through the heart, the heart math coherence breath. But sometimes, if it's really a tough battle, do the baby belly breath, where you drop the breath whoomp, right into your belly, and just like a baby does, let the breath breathe you really deeply. And so total 100% focus on the breath, and try and pause at the end of each exhale, even just for a few seconds. And you'll notice that as your breath deepens and slows, you just have cleared your mind. You just got out of your mind and into your body. And that can often tip you into sleep.
I think that's so important. And I love your talking about how let the breath breathe you, because it's a reminder then that we are supported by these energies larger than ourselves. And I also think that with these solar flares, and they will be intensifying this year in terms of their frequency and their level of impact on us on all levels, is that they also can activate those aspects of our energy field that need to clear, that need to heal. I think that some of the effect of these energies coming from the sun and the galactic center are that it's pushing into our conscious awareness whatever is out of balance in our lives, whatever wounds or trauma from the past that we haven't healed and cleared. So it can feel very destabilizing, not only activating physically, but destabilizing at times emotionally. But I think, again, if we can hold that witness self-awareness and realize this is coming up to heal, this is coming up for me to see it and be able to hold it with compassion and clear it. I've had past life trauma really get activated in these last few months, and it's at times felt really intense. But I'm also aware that it's helping me clear patterns and ways that I've been constricted or caught in coping mechanisms that aren't good for me. So it's supporting me in healing that and clearing that to be moving into a higher consciousness.
Yeah.
So I think we can hold that larger perspective. It can help us feel what's coming up, but honor it as bringing the light of awareness to what's been in the shadows so that it can heal, so that we can move into this higher consciousness in an integrated way.
Yeah, and I think welcoming it in rather than trying to resist what could be an uncomfortable process of clearing, welcoming it in as part of your increasingly expanding consciousness, surrendering to it and say, yeah, I'm on an upgrade, take me for a ride. Rather than the resistance is maybe a better way to look at it. And you're the real expert in that, Heather. I mean, the other thing I'd also recommend to people, either during the day or something I do every night as I'm falling asleep, to again calm down the nervous system. A friend taught me this many years ago, so I'm not going to remember each bit of it correctly. It's terribly simple. It's part of Jinshin Jitsu, which is a kind of non-invasive acupuncture. But essentially, you just hold each of your fingers. And I do this every night. So I think the little finger is the small intestine. This finger is the large one. This is the liver. This is the kidney. I think this is the head or possibly the heart. You can easily find that online. Doesn't matter which hand you use.
Yeah,
And
this is the heart, actually.
oh, is it? Okay, well done. You know better than I do. So, so if you feel a very strong pulse in that area, it means that it's slightly stressed or overloaded. So just keep holding until that pulse subsides, and that can really kind of warmth the whole physical system for you as well. Get you into a much more parasympathetic state. So that's another very simple tool to have in the toolkit too.
There is so much coming into our awareness about how we can work with our energy bodies. And part of what I think is so exciting, we're in this accelerated time, we are remembering these ways of healing and ways of expanding our consciousness that we had forgotten for thousands of years. So I think there's so much that's now available in terms of ways of healing with sound, with light, with innovative technologies that we can share with each other. And that's, I think, part of the beauty of being in connection, in community, is the way in which we can be sharing these different techniques, tools, modalities with each other to support each other in that healing process and expansion into higher consciousness.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, Heather, because so much of the Aquarian energy is about the information network, like mycelium, isn't it, like tree roots? But yes, I think they're going to be incredible healing technologies, as you and I have both spoken. They're going to be solutions, innovations that are simple, actually, and quantum leaps in sorting out problems that we thought were intractable or it would take decades for us to solve. I have always said I don't think it will, because there are solutions just sitting on the sidelines waiting to be made public that actually may have been invented many years ago but have not been publicly available until this time. And so that is going to be, on the very positive side, I think that's going to be amazing and really help this higher consciousness trajectory to move away from the old.
How, Pam, I know you get a lot of questions about this, as do I, in terms of how do we stay centered in the midst of the suffering that's going on in the world in this time?
Yeah, this is a biggie. And equally, Heather, I know you get these emails too, but yes, I've had quite a few, sometimes quite angry emails about why don't you talk about the war and focus on the war? And I've thought about this a great deal, and I know you have too. Um, in that at the moment people are writing to me about the war in the Middle East, which is horrific. I mean, I cannot imagine the suffering those people are going through. It's just completely unimaginable. And a few months ago, they were writing to me about the other war, and a few months before that, it was the Maui fires, and before that, it's just a permanent state of crisis, rolling crisis. And I talk about the hamster wheel of horrors that has gone on for thousands and thousands of years. That look over here, look over here. But we need to get to a level of consciousness where it's absolutely unthinkable to hurt another human being, animal, tree, plant, bird, snail, moss. It's just unthinkable. That's our level of, I grieve if a tree is cut up, and I know many of you do. So I had to think about this quite carefully, because we want to act, we want to do something. But I said to this particular person, who was very angry, and completely understandably, let's go through the options. You could actually try and be on the ground delivering humanitarian aid in the Middle East. That is very hard to do, very dangerous and difficult, because aid isn't getting through. You could send money, if you can, via a reliable charity where you know the money is going to get to the people and not get stuck along the way. Again, that isn't perfectly clear. Or we can sit at home for free and connect to shift the energy in that area. Now, the absolute queen at this is Lynn McTaggart. And I've often referred to her book, quite an old book now, called The Intention Experiment, where she's very scientific in her method and sets up a control, and it's measurable over time. I've been involved in a couple of meditation experiments with her group. And when there was a previous war in the Middle East, she actually set up an experiment over several weeks to reduce violence in that area. And she did, with her group of meditators. And the evidence is not only in the book, but if you go on her website, she's got a tab called Evidence. And she the
Beautiful.
intention experiments constantly, whether it's helping seeds grow faster, heal someone from a terminal illness, reduce war in the Middle East. I think she's got something going on right now for that, bringing people together from her enormous network to say, okay, what can we do? What can we do sitting at home for free to come together and make that shift? She has a ton of evidence, as does Joe Dispenza, as does, many of
Greg
the
Braden.
Greg Braden, Dr. Bruce Lipton. This is the way forwards because everything is about energy and frequency. This is our way forwards. That gets us almost like Buckminster Fuller, gets us beyond the hamster wheel of horror to raise our frequency, to say, we are creating a much more loving world. And this is how we do it with our frequency. And that's the best answer I've got right now. If we can't do the previous, if we can't be on the ground or we can't send money because the charities aren't clear and clean enough. Does that make sense, Heather?
Oh, it's beautiful, powerful, Pam. And you've got your meditation on Sunday that people can join in. And you're right, there is so much research on how gathering together in that kind of focused, intentional meditation can change the world. It changes the morphogenic field of the collective consciousness. And that powerfully can move us towards stopping this cycle of trauma, of violence, of power over, of destruction. The other piece that I think is important is we are still in a realm of duality.
Yeah.
And there is so much awakening happening in this time. There is such a powerful movement on the planet for those of us who are moving into higher consciousness. And it's activating the opposite in terms of we're also seeing more and more the shadow aspects of humanity that need to heal and clear. So we're seeing the extremes right now. And I think as we see that, again, it's also important to be in the witness self and not get mired. I mean, those of us that are sensitive and empathic feel the suffering that's going on in the world. And I think with the lowering of the magnetic field of the earth, we're all more tuned into each other now. So we're not separate from each other. We realize that the suffering of those who are in violence and war is our suffering too.
Yeah, 100%. It's heart opening. We feel immense compassion, and it brings many of us to tears. And just going back to the lady who was angry, and I said, well, if I get angry, who am I helping? I'm not helping the people on the ground in their horrific suffering. I'm not helping myself. I'm lowering the frequency all around. That's not helping in any way. So you've got to get beyond the current paradigm to say, we will never do this again.
Yes,
Never. This is unthinkable in the 21st century. This is still happening. And it isn't actually generally the people who are initiating wars.
exactly.
It's not the people. We are one humanity.
And there are those who I think are very consciously trying to manipulate what's going on in the world right now to retain power and cling to the paradigms of the past. That will fail. We
Yes,
all know that that will fail. But in the process, what you're saying is so true, Pam, that if we drop into that level, and we need to hold with compassion that at times we feel the pain, we feel the sadness, the despair, the anger that this is still happening. And I think the key is feel it and let it flow and come back into that higher consciousness of sending out healing, of sending out the energy of peace and of unity consciousness. Because if we drop into and get mired in that anger or despair or overwhelm, we're inadvertently fueling the
correct.
very duality and polarization that we're trying to heal. So I think that's really important to look, as you're saying, where are we putting our energy? And is it actually supporting the healing? Or are we getting pulled into the drama and then getting pulled into that energy of trauma that just keeps reverberating on the planet if we energize it?
Absolutely. Because, as we both know in the quantum field, where you put your focus and attention is where you activate, you give energy. It's like food to whatever you absolutely don't want to see more of. So it's kind of crazy. We keep getting caught in this loop, but as the really big scary things appear to keep on coming in an effort to hold the status quo, we have to be bigger than that to catch our habit and say, do you know what? This is like being in an abusive relationship, and oh, it's another one of those. And I'm not going to get caught in this trap because I'm actually over here creating something beautiful. And then those very simple meditations, which again aren't an original idea at all, people are doing this all over the world, but those 15 meditations on 7 o'clock UK time on a Sunday evening, people are putting people in war zones in the center of the circle when we're all holding hands across the world. They're sending peace, they're sending love, they're sending relief to those people in the war zones. And if no other options are available to us, that's one of the best things we can do, because everything starts from energy, frequency, and consciousness. That is primary. And so until we get a better idea, I think that's a very good option for us.
Well, and we're also realizing that we're all interconnected, and that there is such power in that long distance healing. That again, it's when we get caught in that third dimensional way of thinking, we think, well, it has to be an action on the ground in physical reality, but we have this capacity as energy beings to do that long distance healing and to be shifting the morphogenic field of the collective consciousness so it doesn't keep happening, so that we can actually get to the root issue and clear it so that we don't keep reenacting this trauma on the planet.
Absolutely, because being on the ground is in a way still operating in 3D. I have to physically be there to do something. Whereas actually, as we move into fifth dimension and beyond, this expanded consciousness, we can do it with energy powerfully. And it can happen quickly, as we know if we've ever received healing, long distance remote healing. It can happen in moments. I've been a witness to miracles many, many times in my life, both receiving them, but also seeing them with other people, how it can literally happen in seconds. And this is what we need to learn. We need to become masters of frequency and energy in a much bigger way, entering this period of Aquarian energy than we have ever understood before. I think it's a big part of it.
I want to circle back too, Pam, to something you said earlier that I think is so important. And it's a huge theme that I've been working in my own life. I think a lot about Neptune in these final degrees of Pisces. I think a lot about the profound meaning of Sedna coming into our consciousness in this time, and how that critical moment in the Sedna story, where she's on her own path of spiritual initiation and transformation, and is caught in the storm when her father is trying to pull her back to the paradigms of the past, take her back to the village.
Yeah.
And Raven, the shaman, sets off this storm. And the father, in his survival modality, throws her out of the boat to save himself. And she's in the storm and in the stormy seas, which is a lot of what I think we can feel at times in this tumultuous transition time. And I keep coming back to her moment of realization. I can't grab onto the boat. I can't find security in those paradigms of the past. And she surrenders to the sea and dives into the deep ocean and becomes the goddess of the deep sea. And I keep thinking how we're in this expansion to become beings of light, to become these expansive spiritual beings with a consciousness we can't even dream of right now. But to be in that transition, a part of it is opening to surrender and trust. I love that Hopi prophecy of let go of clinging to the branch on the shore, be in the river. Let the currents of the river carry you. You know, and our ego self wants to have a boat, wants to have a map, wants to know the destination, make sure we have enough supplies on the boat. Yep. And it's about be in the river, surrender to the currents, and know they will carry you to where you need to go. And then look up, see who else is in the river with you, connect with your community, but know that we are being held and supported, loved and protected, and guided through this profound time.
Absolutely, Heather, and this profound metamorphosis, which is what Sedna went through, is absolutely prophesied at this time. This is the big pivot point. Yeah, I think, and by the end of 2024, I think we'll look back and many of the old forms of security may have disappeared, but we are living in such a sense of expanded consciousness. It just simply won't matter because we're on to another level of connection and understanding and solution and possibility. It will just seem so irrelevant and sort of medieval almost. It will seem so ancient. And we're only hanging on to it at this time because we've never known anything else. And the future is unimaginable because we've never made such an evolutionary leap before. But the more that we are in connection with others, whether it's online or even better in person, we are going to have this sense of we are all one humanity. We are all one humanity coming together, supporting each other, sharing information, helping, sharing resources. It's that kind of feeling. You know, Lynn Bell, I think, has coined a phrase, and I have great respect for Lynn, arise humanity, or humanity arise. This is what we are in right now, stepping into our power as individuals, but also as one humanity.
And moving beyond that sense of separation and individualism to realize we are one humanity. And as we can allow ourselves to move into that higher dimensional way of being, we're also remembering we're galactic beings, and we're remembering our capacity to be in connection with the consciousness of the planets and the stars and the plants and the animals and the earth and cosmic consciousness, to be co-creators with all of those energies around us and with us. So it's a profound time of moving into that unity consciousness if we allow ourselves to open to trust and really keep coming back to the heart when our minds feel overwhelmed and confused and uncertain.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot of galactic disclosure this year to give us that greater sense of we are galactic citizens, and we always have been. It's just been very hidden in recent times. And that is going to be thrilling to reconnect to our galactic family. It's going to be something we've never known before. And they are operating at a higher frequency because they can do all kinds of clever things out there that we can't do on Earth. And that's going to be, I think, again, take us in quantum leaps of consciousness. And as we know, Heather, many astrological suggestions this year that that's going to happen in quite a big way. And so welcome that in. You know, these are benevolent beings of light. This is part of our family. So whatever the box in the corner is telling you, welcome them in as helpers along the way. You know, these are not beings to be afraid of at all. Welcome them in as part of our evolution and our journey.
So before we close, anything else that you would want to offer for people in this time?
Yes, a really simple thing I do at the end of every day. I mean, I know how incredibly busy your days are, Heather. Mine are, sometimes absolutely fried and frazzled as well, just crazy. I will do every day at the end of a day. I will make a point of on social media checking in with 3 elephant charities that I support. One is the Global Sanctuary for Elephants in Brazil. The other is in Thailand, Elephant Nature Park. They both rescue elephants from kind of horrible conditions. The third one is the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, where the mother's elephants have been poached and they rescue the babies. And I've got about 12 orphan babies that I support. But I support a lot of animal charities. And I will always check in at the end of the day because it just opens my heart. And I did a video a couple of years ago on those 3 charities, just as an example of hashtag look what love built. These people working with the elephants are absolutely not doing it to make money, profit, fame. They are working incredibly hard hours for the love of these precious creatures. Look what love built. to bring love and peace and sanctuary to these beautiful creatures. And to me, it softens me, it opens my heart, it gets me out of the head and into the heart in a bigger way. And that's a good place to end my day. And so whatever it is for you, whether it's animals or children, whatever it is that you know, that's your way of helping to open your heart at the end of the day before you go off to sleep. That to me is always my punctuation point at the end of a day.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I've adopted baby elephants and rhinos also.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And I love that. And I think part of what you're highlighting, and it's very much a part of my day every day, is um, opening to that love that is all around us. I have a grandmother beech tree that I connect with every day, who's the matriarch of this area. And I connect with her and the bees in my beehive and this hawthorn tree that's sacred to me that's here. And I thank them and I connect with them. So even on those days where I don't feel a lot of the supportive community around me, I feel the way in which that energy of healing and love is there in the natural world for us. That the animals are trying to guide us, the plants are trying to heal us. And I do feel we are here on this planet to grow in love and wisdom, and that our spirit guides also are more present than ever before. And when we can open to them, they remind us that we are never alone. We are always held in love and being supported and guided, which can help us rest in that when we feel overwhelmed in the intensity of the times, to know that we are a part of this larger process and that we are held in the love of the cosmos and that we're not alone.
And yes, that's so important to remember. And actually, whenever I'm in a tight spot, as I was in the woods this morning, as you know, Heather, I'll just say, okay, guys, come on down. I need you, right? I'm deep doo doo and I need your help. And it always works. It always works. So they are there for you. And the more you connect to them, I think the smoother your journey through life is. And you start to really feel that support, even if it's invisible.
Yes, and one thing I do in my meditations when I'm really overwhelmed is I visualize going to this cave that's a sacred cave now that I go to when I'm really overwhelmed, where I meet with my primary spirit guide and I just fall into her arms and feel held and supported and healed and know that I'm in that sacred space and am protected and supported. And then I can come back into this realm. And I think, as you were saying earlier, Pam, it's so important. An image I often use, because I love Star Trek, is to think of this as a holodeck. We're in this hologram. We're in this dream,
Yeah.
and we are co-creators of it.
Yeah.
And we can't, when we hold it that way, it helps us to not get mired in it, but to hold that larger perspective and to remember, as you said earlier, that we are co-creators of this reality and we can co-create a different reality. We don't have to stay mired in the tumult. So I think that is a constant reminder to us to be on that path of staying in alignment with love and healing energy, to be co-creating a new world together.
Yes, that's very, very beautiful. And for people who aren't using this yet, do it in tiny ways. You know, you've set an intention for an easy car parking space to be found. You know, so do it in tiny, tiny ways through your day, and watch how it starts to manifest. If there's a difficult relationship dynamic, send love to it and observe in tiny ways how that relationship changes day by day. And that will help you to start to step into your co-creative power.
Well, thank you, Pam. thank you for the way in which you walk your talk and with such integrity. And part of what I so respect about you is you are so in alignment with your soul's purpose here to be an agent of healing and transformation to support us all in this time. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Well, that's high praise indeed, Heather, because you are equally one of those. And I know you help many, many people in your days, an enormous amount of people. So God bless you for all the work you're doing in the world. And I just love this conversation. I really hope it helps people out there in a whitewater rafting 2024.
And I want to just express my gratitude to both of our communities, which overlap a lot, for all the ways in which you are working this time consciously and for the profound ways that we feel supported by you. We feel the ways in which we're all supporting each other and co-creating this new earth together. So
Yeah,
thank
echo that very much. Thank you so much, Heather. Really loved it. And sending love to everybody out there. Heartfelt love.
love and blessings to everyone.